Into 2x2 formation, 24 cars on this grid in hot, humid and overcast conditions, and it is defending champion Ivan Muller on the left-hand side of your picture on the inside line with his teammate Jordi Genet with a red windscreen strip heading the second queue of the cars as they build up speed towards the line. Eduardo Freitas, our race director, throws the green and the season is underway, and a good start from the back of the Seat queue by Ricard Riedel. He's made it 3 wide, and that's to try and make up places for himself, but also has the added effect of slowing the BMW progress if there was going to be any, and it's nearly 5 wide with Seats, 3x2.
Awesome sight, absolutely awesome sight. Behind there you could see Rob Huff. There's Alain Menu across the grass there. That was always going to happen in that first corner.
So the first of the Seats has been back.
Alain Menu. Is that Menu that's off?
And that's Jörg Muller, and that's Andy Prio as well in the background. So Ivan Muller leads from Jordi Genet. It looks like Riedel and Tarquini got through, and that means Portero got jumped by Augusto Farfus. Rob Huff with Felix Portero inside him. Huff makes up a place there. So I'm
sure that was Menu in the background, yes, hitting the barriers.
Absolutely sure as well. Jaap van Lagen get eased off, and one of his teammates goes by. Was that Engstler or Marin Kolak that pushed him? Not quite sure. So Thiago Monteiro was the Seat sacrificial lamb in the first corner, but 1, 2, 3, 4 away they go now. Don't forget last year that Augusto Farfus was able to close on them in this tight and twisty sector here, even though they were setting fastest times in qualifying the Seats through that second sector, and then close on the end on the run up to the straight. But once they got on the straight, they just selected top gear and off they motored, and we'll wait and see whether that remains the format here. All 4 of them running together line astern, and John, that gives them great speed as an entity compared to individual pace maybe of Farfus.
Yeah, they'll tow each other along, they get in each other's slipstreams, and if they just keep like this, so they work together, they're not trying to I was just about to say they're not trying to pass each other, but it looks a bit like is that Ricard there? It's Tarquini that's trying to pass Ricard.
Yeah.
And I think if they all work together at the moment and try and get a bit of a gap on Farfus, then if they want to fight and kick and scream with each other over the next sort of 12 laps, that's okay, but they shouldn't at the moment be hustling each other and elbowing each other out.
Further back, that is the first of the Chevrolets. Larini and Huff there surrounding Hernandez. Sergio Hernandez, of course, in the BMW Italia Spain car, and he is the second of the factory BMW drivers. Just behind you can see the man that he replaced, and in the pits Jörg Muller, and I'm sure Prio, if he can get his car back, will be in the pits as well. But it's a rotten start to the season for both the BMW drivers.
I don't think Prio's out. I think Prio's still in there somewhere. He only had slight damage to the front end of the car, and I think that's him in that train in front of Tom Coronel. But it just looked like it was Alain Menu. Here we're going to see a replay on it. Yeah, it's Prio gets slightly involved in it. It was really about Menu and whose fault is this?
Well, this is Andy gets hit by Jörg on the inside, goes around Andy's nose. That's why the right front corner of Andy's car looked a bit second-hand, and that's why I thought he might not be in the queue.
It looked a bit like Jörg's obviously come down the inside thinking he could have everybody when it was all happening on the left of him. That may well have damaged the steering or the front track on Andy's car, which isn't really going to help it. But at the moment, he doesn't seem to be getting dropped by this lead bunch.
Huff is top Chevrolet, Portero in 10th, behind him Larini in 11th with Gabrielli in 4th, and he's clearly feeling I need to get by Ricard. Now, I would have thought that maybe if I was Jaime Puig, I'd say, okay guys, 6 laps in, hold station wherever you are, and from lap 7 onwards, we'll give you the thumbs up, then you can start attacking in the second half of the race, if we are clear. Discipline's got to be important here, because you can't take each other off.
No, if they work together, the worst thing you can do is to be trying to compromise your line into the corner, because you then slow yourself up. Even if it's only a 1/10 of a second here and there, it allows the guy, and in this case it's Farfus, to get on the tail end of this train. What they need to do is don't try to trip each other up, don't try to pass each other at the minute. Pull away, get themselves 5 or 6 car lengths, and then they can beat each other up.
Portero back inside Huff to retake that 9th place. You're right. I think the problem, though, is that Ricard is very slightly holding up Gabrielli, and Rob just gave him a little nudge on the inside in the corner, and he avoids, I'm hoping that's not a wooden post, but a plastic post. He comes back on right in front of 21 Tom Coronel, not 20 as he has been since time immemorial. Just behind the yellow Seat with the Union flag, that is Tom Boardman. So he is just in 3rd place in the Indies. Well, there's Portero being just eased a little by Rob Huff. Zanardi right behind. Did a good job of holding on to that,
It was a reasonably fair move. Looked a bit dramatic, but it was reasonably fair, I think.
The outcome was a lot more dramatic than the move itself, but look what it's done is that Huff is managing to move himself nicely up the order now.
I can't believe Larini is, he's right on the back end of it. What's he's 7th now?
Yeah.
I mean, he'll get a nosebleed. He's never been that high up for years.
Not for a while. He got a good start though, and that's, you know, that's half the game in these rolling starts, is to make it cleanly through, because you can pretty much count out 2 or 3 of the top 10 in any first corner shenanigans.
Tom's got his act together here. That's he's always there or thereabouts.
Well, right there is the lead for the independence class, that blue and white BMW.
Tom's second in that lead, in that battle for independence at the moment.
There you go, Franz Hensler. As I said earlier, I expect him to be a season-long contender for that category, and there he is in 3rd place at the moment, all over the back of Coronel. 4th place is Prio, you're right. I think it's just actually a big black mark. I thought it had lost a lot of that front air dam, but it is just a tyre mark.
I think that's where he was pushed into Alain Menu, and he's ended up with a whole lot.
Well, that's from Jürg's tyre as he's come across the nose of Prio's car, and a mistake there finally. Montero is going to be in trouble from Larini, because Larini's not alone, and that means that he and Hernandez are going to go a little quicker than the Portuguese. And again, Rydell is defending hard against Tarquini, and
Gabrielli clearly wants past, and Ricard is obviously slower. He's right on him here, so just a slight tap to remind him he's there.
Well, we've seen Ricard a couple of times locking up into corners and definitely holding Gabrielli up.
But Ricard's not going to be the boy to move over. Rick doesn't do things like that.
That's why they have radios. That's why Jaime Puig is the team boss. You know, no, Jaime has got to say to him, Ricard, you're too slow. Pull over. Let Gabrielli go through.
Rick won't listen. Gabrielli will have to make that move himself.
Well, in that case, he's going to have to force it. Larini having a good opening race in this Chevrolet Cruze.
It's not looking bad at all.
Yeah. Well, they were hoping that the extra wide track at the back will give him more stability. Hernandez comfortably outbrakes him there. So again, you can see maybe it's not quite right on the edge where Larini would like it to be. Last year's car very nervous. He retakes the place on the exit of the corner though. So actually in cut and thrust racing, this might be quite an entertaining car for the Chevrolet boys, and I wonder, Menu was a little bit worried that on a street circuit, the narrower Lachetti was very good at instantly turning direction, changing direction, and they were really good. They won on every street circuit. Stefano D'Asti has had a big one. Is that the final corner again?
It's removed all the doors and windows.
Well, it's really stove in. It's not the final corner, but it's really stove in.
Yes, pulling over to the left.
That's Larini pulling over.
Or is it Larini?
It is. No, it's not. No, it's Huff. And there is Stefano D'Asti running away from his car. So not an illustrious start to his attempt to win the Independence Trophy. So that's Larini still in that group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are your point scorers at the moment. 5, as you'll notice, seem to be in yellow and red cars. Oh dear, on the loose.
Yeah, I just got a back wheel on the grass there. That was just a fairly stupid mistake, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of damage as well.
Yeah.
He may be lucky that the suspension might have got away with it, but he's abandoned the car, and so that means that the team won't have anything except for the 15-minute period between the two races when you're allowed to work on the car to deal with it.
To bunch him up.
Well, that might be entertaining, because it will then not only close up the top 8, which gives Farfus and Larini a little bit of a break.
That's John Waterman talking to Mark Busfield on the right there. He's the team manager. John Waterman is Alain Menu's engineer. So they're obviously having a look to see what's going to happen with Alain's car.
Well, Menu's car in the pit lane. Rob Huff's car has peeled off on the side of the circuit as well. So 2 down and only 1 Chevrolet remains. And that's not great news. Now, I wonder whether that's a new car cooling problem or something like that. I mean,
we know what happened to Alain. Alain was involved in an incident. What do you call it? Huffy come onto the pit straight here. Quite clearly he'd lost something. He'd lost some of the drive. I don't know what it was. But I'm amazed at Larini. He's obviously been eating something over the winter, because he's never been this close to the front of a race for a long time.
He's had his Weetabix.
I think it was, I mean, he's had 3 Weetabix this morning. I mean, it was Pole last year was the last time I saw him anywhere near the front of a race.
Well, Larini still to win a World Touring Car Championship race, and that will certainly be galling him after 4 long seasons of trying. And clearly he's got to regard this new Chevrolet as a big step forward and to try and make the most of it as well. So Van Muller had started actually to open up a bit of a margin, but I think that's because Geordie had already started to roll off the throttle.
See what's happening here. That's it. The problem there is he's obviously missed a pit lane now, and he's abandoned at the side of the road, so the team won't have a chance to work. Whatever it is serious enough. It's got no drive now. Whether it's an electrical thing where it's a gearbox or an engine problem, who knows? But
well, they've changed gearboxes as well. They've gone away from the X-Track and they've gone to an X-Track. They've gone to a much smaller sequential gearbox anyway than the one they used previously. So not suggesting that is any way related to the problem. But as you say, he clearly had drive through the final corner, and it's one of those things, John, you've had it happen, I've had it happen, where you go up into the next gear and there is just nothing there, and he just goes boo. Or the electrics die, or the gear isn't there. But the safety car is, for this incident, Stefano D'Aste just losing it in the long Esse di Alta.
That's cured that tyre barrier. That's the problem, because as you're coming down in there to brake for the left-hander, the barrier's not any. If it's not there to support the car, then there's a. Yeah, you can see this. It's quite an interesting corner there, and if you got it all wrong, then it could be a fairly big accident.
This is the interior part of the circuit. It's essentially, if you know what Daytona looks like, a sort of tri-oval. Well, he's had an extra few minutes there, hasn't he, to make sure that he can get the car fixed. Now he'll go out, do a few laps, make sure it's still running, and get it perfect for race 2, because to score any points at all, he's going to have the most phenomenal race 2, isn't he?
It's just a shame, because he's actually been pretty quick here. His sector times in warm-up this morning were looking good, and I kind of thought that his season would maybe start quite well, but quite clearly that's not the case. It's a shame for Ivan Muller, because Ivan had just started to get 2 or 3 car lengths away from Jordi Genet, and now the safety car's bunched them all back up again. I should think Gabrielli has been on the telephone to his engineer Giancarlo saying, get Ricard's engineer, tell him I'm quicker, get him out the way.
I think he will have gone further up the chain and said, go to Jaime and say, unless you want an accident where 2 of us don't make the podium, tell him to get out of the way.
They're a little bit more professional than that, though. They don't take each other out.
No, I know, but the problem is Gabrielli is being held up, and he's got Farfus now breathing in his exhaust fumes. So it's not that Gabrielli is going to punt Ricard, but the problem is that Farfus is going to try and get by them, and somewhere in that kerfuffle it is very easy to imagine a scenario where you get the cannonball effect. One set gets knocked into the other, and the chances are Ricard being in front is going to be one that takes the brunt of it.
I think we've got Zanardi quite well up in this race. Unfortunately, we can't see too much in the way of graphics at the minute, but I think Zanardi's about 9th or 10th.
Well, there you see Giancarlo, and there you see Jaime Puig, the men who have to try and sort out this problem of who's going to finish on the podium or not for the SEAT team. BMW Team UK car of Andy Priaulx, again requiring some componentry after damage in the first corner. Safety car lights should, I would think, go off in a couple of moments. We'll wait and see exactly where they get to around the circuit. It should go off between turn 7 and turn 8 in the Esse di Alta, which is the Portuguese equivalent of Variante Alta, so the high S's rather than the Esse di Bassa, which are at the end of the front straight.
I think 8th place at the minute is Hernandez, which puts him on pole for the second race.
I remember how I pointed out just before we sat down and put the headsets on that 8th place and pole for race 2 last year was an independent as well, and that was Olivier Tielemans in his BMW for Vika Sport. So
I think it's Hernandez, and then we've got 8th, 9th, 10th I think is Zanardi, and 11th is Andy Priaulx with somebody's bitten a big chunk out of the front splitter on that one.
Yeah,
that won't be affecting this is not a hugely high-speed track, and it's not going to make a massive effect to the way that car handles.
Right, safety car will stay out for another lap unless there has been some miscommunication with the safety car driver, because the lights should have gone on in the last couple of corners. We just saw that little downhill dip, the high S's, high being like about a yard higher than the low S's, but still one man and his dog looking at the tyre barrier over there. Tyre barrier is okay, they've just lost the advertising hoarding, so I imagine that Eduardo Freitas won't be too overly worried about that. What he really won't want is to just continually keep adding laps or continually having safety car laps. You can add up to 2 laps of race distance as a result of 2 or more laps of safety car, but again we go round for another lap.
So this is a really important time for the drivers now. They're partway through this race, the tyres are cooling down, the pressures, the tyre pressure is getting lower, and the car won't have quite the same grip when the safety car peels off and they start the race again. It is also hugely important to keep heating the brakes, and the best way, you see them all weaving around, that's really just to sort of keep the tyres clean. That really puts no heat whatsoever in the tyre. It's keeping them clean, and the way to put the heat in the tyre is to be on and off the brakes all the time, because the brakes in these cars are quite big and they dissipate so much heat up through the wheel and therefore up through the tyre, and that's really what puts the heat into the tyre itself, not all this weaving around. That just does nothing. At this point as well, you've really got to be right on the back bumper of the guy in front. And the frustration for, like here we see huge gaps between some of these guys, and that's frustrating because when the safety car's lights are out now and the safety car peels off, you've got to be on the guy in front of you, right on his back bumper, and try and catch him asleep. Try and catch him. He's just not concentrating, and you've got to get him quick as you can. It's a good opportunity to get some places.
Lights of the safety car have gone off too early. They went off after turn 5. They should go after turn 7.
They're back on again.
That's the second intermediate line, yes.
Yeah, they put them back on again.
Yeah, Eduardo's saying, no, do it when I tell you. Now they're off at the correct place. Eduardo, are you listening to me? Beavering away there in your race control box.
So we have Ivan Muller leading this race again. He'll have to work pretty hard. These 4 guys now need, the 4 Seats have really got to work together, get off, get away from Farfus, and then start to muscle each other again.
Through the final corner, lights off on the safety car, getting ready to restart this race. 9 of 16 laps completed, and Ivan Muller leads 4 Seats into the final corner and down the straight, and he will hit the throttle now and go, because he wants to leave them all behind to deal with Augusto Farfus.
Nick Larini, they're trying to get past
Thiago Monteiro has already done Farfus.
A little bit of touch there.
I think Farfus got tagged from behind as Larini came up
just
around him.
accidentally tagged him, yeah.
And you could see the other BMW of Sergio Hernandez trying to make up a place as well. This is looking forward from Farfus. There's Larini around the outside, and that's the place where Alain Menu got shuttled off in the first corner.
He's run over the grass, is he not?
Well, no, he held on, but he held on in front of Farfus, and that is Zanardi jumping his teammate. So welcome to the team, Sergio. Now get behind me.
And Prio got shuffled down in that whole.
Yeah, I think Zanardi had a good run there, and that's a bit of blue back bumper. I don't know whose that was. I'll tell you what, that'll be Felix Portero. That'll be the blue bumper off the back of his car. Yes, it was. Picked up by Tom Coronel's car. So again, the BMW's now starting to charge. Now, unfortunately for BMW, perhaps these 4 laps behind the safety car have allowed the Seats time to bring the tyre temperatures back down, tyre pressures back down, regroup for some of that tyre wear they'll have suffered early on with the extra weight of the diesel engine on top of the on top of the front tyres. So BMW's long run advantage of tyre wear may not be a factor here so much, but Farfus, well, dropped 2 places there at the restart. And
Tarquini have another look at Rydell.
He's still trying to get by, and this is for the podium, of course, so it's extra points, it's being on the podium. Janae seems to be just clear of both of them, and that again shows me, I think, really that Rydell is holding up Tarquini. Looking forward, this is Farfus's view of Larini.
Larini's driving better than I've seen him drive for some time. I might have to sort of retract some of the things I've said about him in the past.
Oh, I give it a race or 2 before.
You're right. I won't apologise this early.
You don't want to be the one making rash judgments. That's my job. You're supposed to be more considered and stuff.
Gabriele is just going to have one lunge here in a minute or 2, because Ricard is just not quite as fast.
Well, Ricard's giving away time to Muller and to Janae, and Gabriele doesn't want to. He said, get out of the way, you are holding me up. And he is going to start having to tap the back bumper on the straight. because that's going to be the only way to get through.
So Montero's now holding back the rest of the charging pack.
Well, full marks again to Montero. Again, talking before the season about the desperate need to get points early. And of course, one extra point here, it puts him a little step further backwards on the race 2 grid. But you can't take that for granted. You've got to try and get the points now and then see what happens behind you afterwards. So Genet, the gap opening up to Rydell, 0.68 of a second. Rydell and Tarquini 0.2, well, barely that at any point on the track. But Tarquini, just like everybody else, not quite able to get close enough to a turbo diesel Seat to actually make a move on the straight. And Rydell's pulled out enough there to survive another lap. Yeah,
I've just had a message sent to me there just now to say that there was a throttle cable that broke on Rob Huff's car, which would explain why he couldn't get it back to the pits.
Yeah.
So that's good. It's not terminal. It means he can get throttle cable put back on it, and then he'll be back in the second race.
Can you replace?
Yeah, albeit it starts way further back.
Can you replace a throttle cable though in 15 minutes? I would certainly hope so, but I wouldn't like to bet on it.
Andy Prio's now 9th, which is, you know, he's one place away from the front row of the grid for the second race, and that's a fair old ask at the moment.
Yeah. Jörg Muller you saw there, just giving Christian Poulsen's Engsler BMW a little kiss on the back bumper. Jörg 5 laps behind, and he is the last running car behind Shapovalov and Ladigin in the 2 of the 3 Ladas. So independent category leader is Felix Portero in 11th place now. He really did get shuffled down the order at the restart when the big boys started swinging the elbows out, John. The new kid got, well, not the new kid, but the independent leader got pushed down the order. So he leads from Coronel and Tom Boardman now right on his teammate's tail. But this is the biggest gap in the field, Tarquini to Montero. It's a 1.6 second gap at the end of the last lap. Montero, Larini, then Farfus with Hernandez giving him all sorts of aggravation. Well, he wants to get through as well.
Hernandez, if he stays where he is, he's on the front row of the grid. He's our pole man for the second race. He should really be staying where he is at this moment in time.
Do you think he's getting a bit uppity? Rydell goes deeply defensive. See, that's Tarquini. That could easily have been a BMW. That was a you are absolutely not getting by move, not follow me through and we'll catch the leaders.
If I was Ricard, I wouldn't be giving him an inch either. So it's up to Gabriele. They're in the same car. They're old hands at this job. They know what's what. And Ricard isn't weaving around the track. He's braking where he should be braking. He's doing what he, you know, what's what. All he wants is a little, you know, a few feet too late in a corner. Just grab a brake and Gabriele will be through. But Ricard doesn't often make mistakes.
No, that's very true.
The one thing he won't be doing is looking in the mirror. That's for sure.
You know, ripped it off and dropped it on the floor.
But I think Andy Prio is a few tenths back from Hernandez here. So he's under no pressure. Hernandez, I mean. He doesn't really want to be passing Farfus at this point. He wants to stay where he is.
Well, Andy's more than a few tenths. That's 3.2 seconds on the last lap, that big gap behind Hernandez. So you're right, Prio is a long way from 8th place and to pole for race 2. Hernandez is the man in the catbird seat, and he might even possibly just find that Farfus makes a mistake on the last lap and he can snick through. But Farfus from inside or outside of row 1, I'm not sure he's going to be that worried about passing Larini now.
No, I think that looking at the best lap times that they've all done so far, I mean, they are all of them within a tenth of a second in the race, in race pace, in race conditions. And I think that at the moment seems to say to me that maybe all the bitching before the race started about the BMWs and the Chevrolets saying that the weight wasn't right, that Seat still had an advantage. Let's just see what this looks like at the end of the race, because up till right now there's 1/10 of a second splits all of them in terms of overall fastest lap times.
Now, one of the rules in the Touring Car Bureau's we're going to balance the weights thing is that nothing happens if the average of the models differs by less than 0.3 of a second in lap time.
So 0.3 of a second.
So at the moment, nobody's got anything to do at all. The Touring Car Bureau can just sit there and twiddle their thumbs. They take the fastest 2 lap times from each manufacturer's model in qualifying and in each of the races over a spread of 3 race weekends to try and make sure you're not just looking at peaks and troughs. And at the moment, there's not 0.3 of a second between Seat, Chevrolet and BMW. Lada can start ringing the bell, because their fastest lap time 1:27.2 to 1:25.6. They're 1.6 seconds away, but still none of the others have got an awful lot to shout about at the moment. And
Nick Larini he got past Montero there. Now Montero's under serious pressure.
Yeah, drifted out wide onto the dirt.
You know what I think?
Is through.
Montero's obviously decided that he wants to start from pole.
Marin Kolak and Christian Poulsen. Marin Kolak and Christian Poulsen were battling for 14th and 15th, 4th and 5th in the independence category. 1 lap to go, and they've managed to take each other off.
That's on the last corner, I think.
Yep, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. And well, that was too hard to see exactly how that came about.
Yeah, that's a 4th gear, sort of 90-mile-an-hour corner, just slightly off camber there.
That will have been somebody just marginally closing the door on somebody else without knowing that they hadn't got the full overlap, and just the tiniest of touches would have done that. Not much in the way of animosity there, is there?
They're shaking hands. It's a bit like, it's a bit like, well, listen, I made a mistake, you made a mistake.
Exactly.
It was nobody's fault. They weren't trying to punch each other's lights out.
Meanwhile, at the front, Ivan Muller is rally driving his way very quickly away from Jordi Genet, really starting to extend his advantage now. So he doesn't need to be doing that, because that makes his lap time a bit better. Well, there is our reigning world champion Ivan Muller, leading comfortably from pole position this opening race of his title defence, and on to the final lap he goes here in Curitiba. Ivan Muller won the first race last season ahead of Ricard Riedel. Jörg Muller was 3rd, Andy Priaulx 4th, Gabriele Tarquini in 5th place, but still looking as though we're going to have a top 4 for Seat. Genet 2nd, Riedel looks likely to be the final podium man, except John, it's now the last lap, so Gabriele's sleeves will metaphorically be rolled up, and Ricard really might want to just take a quick look at where the other car is behind him. I
don't think that's going to be a problem now, but just watching the best lap times here, and really, Ivan Muller is the fastest man on the track with a 1:25.66. Then the other sets are all 25.7s, 25.7, 25.7. Larini's at 25.8, and the best of the BMW is 25.7. Unfortunately, Andy Priaulx looks as though he's off the pace slightly. It's a 25.9. So maybe that little incident, that touch with Jörg Muller at the start of this race, just knocked the track out slightly, which would mean the car won't turn into the corners the way he would really ideally like it. And I'm quite sure they'll get that car sorted for the next race. But Ivan is quite truly, world champion. He's proved that he's fastest all weekend, and he's unless something serious happens now, he's got this race in the bag.
Out of the final corner he comes, the turbo whistles up to the line, and Seat begin their title defence with a resounding 1, 2, 3, 4 success. Best of the rest, the brand new Chevrolet Cruze of Nicola Larini in 5th, ahead of Farfus, Hernandez and Montero. So all 5 Seats in the top 8. Priaulx there 9th, ahead of our independent category winner Felix Portero in 10th, just ahead of Tom Coronel, and Tom Boardman got jumped by Alex